Hello, dear ones. This is Corinne from Rebel Heart Woman, and I'm back again with a conversation with a child-free woman as part of my Celebrating the Unconventional Lives of Child-Free Women series. And in this series, I speak to child-free women, either child-free by choice or by circumstance, sometimes both, who have a truly inspiring and oftentimes also vulnerable story to share. And we talk about the challenges that we face on this, life path, but also the magic, meaning, fulfillment, and freedom that is to be had within a child-free life. And today I'm speaking to my good friend, Nathalie Sommer, who is calling in from Spain. Nathalie, thank you so much to be here today.
Thank you, Corinne. I'm so happy to be here with you, especially that we get to talk about, I feel, a really important topic that we often don't talk about. So I'm really honored and I feel very excited to be here.
Thank you. Yeah, well, to those of you, maybe you hear it, Nat and I are both Swiss born, but we met living here in Hong Kong, where I still am. And, we co-created on different projects together in the past. One of that was her space, feminine awareness training, back in, pre-COVID. And yeah, I really appreciate the wisdom Nathalie has to share because Nathalie is a certified relationship and, intimacy coach, as well as a powerful healer, or as of late, she has come to claim the name White Witch, and she truly is, she truly is a White Witch. Nathalie is also going to be a guest healer in my upcoming group program, Creating Magic and Meaning Beyond Motherhood, and we will speak to that a little bit later. All right, well, Nat, I always like to begin these conversations with the question of what's alive for you this morning in Spain, a word or a sentence.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just have to go back to what I initially said. I just feel excited that we get to be here, excited we get to have this conversation, excited that I get to talk about something that I don't often talk about. So the word really there is, excitement.
Yeah. And I can feel that too, it's beautiful that we can bring what we had, what we talked about, just you and me, that we can bring that to a wider audience too, yeah. Because, Nathalie is turning 40 soon in February. That's a big one. And I remember some years back, we talked and I asked her, do you think you will have a child of your own one day? And at the time, Nathalie said, well, you were still feeling into it, but probably not. And so recently we had a chat again and, this topic came up again. And so I'd love for you to share with our audience today where you're at now, how you came to the decisions where you're at, and the story leading up to all of that.
Well, I think it was interesting because at 38 I told myself, well, when I'm 39 I want to try, or at least really look into it and see if this is something that I want, because if I'm going to have kids, I want to have them before I'm 40, or that's just what I was thinking at the time. Well, I turned 39 and there was no real desire to consider children. And I think a big inclination I realized was that if there was a bit of fear there, worry when my period was late, I would be freaking out. I'll be like, and I don't pray, but I'll be like, please don't let me be pregnant. Please don't let me be pregnant. And, I just had to go like, well, Nat, I mean, if you're so scared and if it's such a big no, and it's just like, there's so much resistance to this, then it's just a no. Like, just be honest with yourself. It's a no. Like, your body's telling you and something inside of you is telling you a no. And I did go a bit on a journey as well as to the reasons as to why it's no, but at the end it's just also a deep inner feeling of a no. And at some point, yeah, there was a desire to have children. And I think it was probably circumstantial. At the time I was living in Australia, I had this vision or dream or idea that, we'll have a dog, I'll have a husband, I'll have a house, we'll have some kids. We're kind of living the Australian dream in, nice, beautiful home near the beach. And yeah, there was also, I think in my body, there was also somewhere a longing to have children. And that was in my early 20s. And I did fall pregnant. I was in a relationship and I did fall pregnant. I just moved to a new city for that person in Australia. I didn't know anybody, I just knew him. I was deeply and madly in love, but it was a very, very toxic relationship. And as soon as I moved, because my pills were stored in the boxes, and we just filled with love, and was all amazing. And yeah, and I fell pregnant. But also as soon as I moved there, the relationship just did not work out. There was more toxicity than anything else. And so here I was pregnant in a city that I didn't know anybody other than him, living alone. And I was like, well, what do I do? And he was of no support. And I was like, well, I really have to make, regardless, I would have had to make this decision myself. And it was just like, it's not the right time. And I didn't see myself being a single mother in a foreign country without knowing anybody. And I was already going through this toxic breakup and back and forth. It was already like I was already emotionally at rock bottom. So I had a termination. And that was a very hard decision, because somewhere there I still had this dream or idea that I want to have a family. And that dream was definitely not reality, because the relationship that I was in was not really what I envisioned. So yeah, I had a termination, and that was a deep process. And I feel like in some ways that probably has left a scar somewhere. I believe that probably has also, I feel, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel it's also probably has shaped something that, yeah, maybe children is not for me. It probably would have had a fraction to do with that. Or maybe that my body feels like there's a no. I don't feel like it's the whole reason, but I feel like would have had a fraction to do with that. So yeah, and after that, I just, maybe for a little bit longer, I still had the idea or vision of maybe that's what I would like to have. But then turning 24, 25, since then I've never ever had that feeling again. And I'm married, and I'm married, and I kind of, we've now got a home. So in some ways, now would be the time to have a child. I'm kind of living that dream that I had, or that vision. We've got a dog, we've got the house, we've got the husband.
Yeah,
But
it's a healthy relationship as well now, right? So it's kind of like the conditions now would be perfect, as perfect as they can be, right?
Yeah. And I just don't have that feeling or yearning or deep desire that I want to have a child. It's just not there.
Thanks so much also for sharing, about determination, because I think this is, it's it's common, and women don't need to feel, that, as I think you explained it so beautifully, that when you really dropped in and ask yourself, what do you want, what do you desire to do with this? It was determination. You felt that quite clearly. Yeah. And yeah, I feel like, this following through with, this is I think a theme in your life, and that's obviously also what you teach in your group programs and your one-on-ones with clients, is that really help them to tap into their true desires. What is it that they want, not what they think they need to do. Yeah. And yeah, and also I think, you mentioned when we talked about that, the first time when you mentioned it to me, that sometimes you felt there a sense of there's a shame. No, you mentioned like there's something wrong with you for not having that desire to have a child, for just not having felt it anymore, basically the last 15 years.
Yeah.
And we talked about that because this is something so many women who are child free by choice, kind of carry. Where is that coming from, you think? Yeah. What's your...
Yeah. I mean, I carried that. Yeah, I definitely carried that shame because I could feel judgment from friends. And, you often get asked, so when are you going to have children? And, I just created just like an automatic reply. Well, we're just not quite ready yet, but, we'll feel into it a bit later. That was just kind of like an automatic reply. And, the automatic reply got formed because I just felt that people wouldn't understand if I just said no, and then I would have to justify myself. And of course, I don't have to justify myself. But there's also, I feel like, shame that I carried, like, why is there something wrong with me? Like, why don't I have that desire? Like, it should be natural. I'm a woman. My body should be like, my womb should be yearning for a child, but I'm not feeling that. There's got to be something wrong with me. Yeah. And when we think about it, of course we carry shame, because centuries ago, like, all we were really good for was to procreate. Like, it's in our nervous system, it's in our DNA, it's in our build that we are here to create life. And that's really what we were good for. Like, we didn't get married for love. We got married to procreate. And I feel like that is still somewhere inside of us, because then we get this feeling, well, what am I really going to be useful for otherwise? And also then this fear, maybe, well, will my partner accept me? Will they think that I'm good enough? Because I'm not going to be the person to give them children. So what am I going to be there to give them? Or what am I going to be there to give them? So I feel like subconsciously, we probably don't realize this consciously, but I feel like subconsciously there's a lot of history behind us that gives us reasons to feeling the way that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, even when we look at what women are taught when they get their menstruation the first time, like, all we hear is, now you're a woman, you can have children. It means you can have children, that you menstruate. And we are always just told such a fraction of what that actually means, because you and I, like, we are both womb whisperers, right? Like, we work with helping women to really connect and reclaim that womb power, the creative power, and being you can be a creatress and not procreate children. Like, you can create, well, whatever your heart desires, or what wants to be created also through you, what you want to become a conduit through. And that womb, and in you as an intimacy and relationship coach, obviously, it's also the sexuality, the center of the sensuality, desire, cyclicalism, and so forth. Would you like to speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah. I
think maybe how for child-free women, even though you may know you don't want a child, that it's still really beneficial for you to connect with your womb, right? Because it can often lead to, well, I don't want children, I'm just going to disconnect from that completely. Or it hasn't happened, and now I'm kind of in a weird relationship with my womb. So can you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, one of the times we do really connect to the womb in a very loving way is when we are pregnant. Unless we've been really lucky, and when we started to menstruate, maybe somebody did like a ceremony for us, so we just had a opportunity to connect to our womb in a loving, healthy way. But otherwise, it's really only when you're pregnant, and you're just really putting all this focus and love and energy around your womb and your belly. And usually we don't really get taught that. And I think there's this other feeling as well that, well, how can I or that a lot of people have told me, like, you can only really love a child or have like this deepest love that you can have for a child. There's no greater love than you have for a child. And I mean, I can't speak to that. I don't have children, but I also feel that love comes in so many different ways and forms, and we can also bring that back to us. Like, who is to say we cannot bring this deep, deep care and love back to ourselves? Who is to say we can't bring that to our womb? Whether we have children, whether we're pregnant or not, we can also have that in connection to our feminine being, to our feminine power center, to our womb. And that's something that I try to help women to understand, to like, yeah, there's a whole lot of life in there, and all different forms of life. There's life of your creativity, there's life of your vitality, there's life of your sexuality, there's life of your, like when we birth a business, or when we birth, I don't know, something big into the world, that can also be a form of giving birth, and that's also giving life, and that can also come with deep, deep, deep love. It's probably different love that we feel for all different things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a lesser love, or it's not the right kind of love.
Yeah, and I want to come back. I want to circle back to this piece of, comparing love some way, like in a moment. But I think, yeah, so it's when we get in touch with the womb, we get in touch with our creativity, but also what I like to call our inner mother. Yeah. And by connecting with our inner mother, especially women who have had maybe a very conflicting relationship with their birth mother, it is so healing. And once you're connected with your inner mother, like you say, you can bring that love and care to yourself. You learn to mother yourself. So that's the self-love. But also, if you want, you can learn, like you can start directing that love and care towards something else. Yeah. Which I know do in so many ways. And so in the moment we come to that, but I just quickly want to say here, so when women who join Creating Matching and Meaning Beyond Motherhood, my 6 months program, they will do a womb healing journey with Nathalie at the beginning of the program, because it's really important that we clear some of that stuff out and heal as we go deeper on this journey of what magic and meaning awaits for every woman outside of becoming a birth mother. Yeah. Now, sir, you want to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, and I just love how you just touched on this mother part, and I know that's what you're really big about, is really bringing this motherly love to yourself and healing your mother wound. And I mean, there's like, I feel like whether we feel maternal or we don't feel maternal, but I feel like we can all access that motherly love, like this real deep unconditional love, and it's just really so beautiful when we can direct that to ourselves. And I think at the end of the day, we all yearn for this, or we have this longing to feel this motherly love for ourselves. And then also, I feel like whether we feel maternal or not, we do like to naturally, we like to give love to others. And I feel like we can also then receive it ourselves, but then also, just because I'm not a mother to a child, I can also be a mother to so many other things in my life and bring in that motherly love. And I think that's something that sometimes we don't realize that we can, or we don't really put that motherly love together with just life. We often just think about just having it with a child. So yeah, I just love how you touched on that.
Yeah, because it's the mothering is a quality of the feminine which cannot only be lived through having a child. Yeah. And I know you. I mean, I've been one of your clients at some point. We've worked together. I've experienced you, and I'm sure a lot of other people would subscribe to that. You have such a natural, caring, nurturing energy. When you work with the people you come into contact with, whether it's friends or your clients, but then also your dog, like Henrik, for example, now, right? Or before it was Jolie. And you nurture, well, we as solopreneurs, we nurture our businesses, right? Our business also need nurture. We nurture in relationship. We talked about that last time. So sometimes let's speak a little bit maybe about capacity of how some, women who are child free sometimes feel like, well, I'm not sure if there's enough capacity that then on top of that I could also bring in a child and nurture that, because it kind of goes then into the nuclear, away from, more out to the nuclear. How do you see that?
I think that's really one of the reasons for me as well as why I've had a big question mark about having children, because I know from having seen my friends having children that it takes, and also working with clients on how much it takes to have a child. And of course you want to dedicate this time, energy and love to your child, but I also feel that my life in some ways has got such balance in how I distribute my love to myself, to my husband, to my dog, to my business. And I also feel if I would have a child, I think knowing myself, I probably will, give a lot to that child. I feel like I probably wouldn't have then the capacity to give this balanced way of feeling right now to, or giving love or receiving love the way how I do now. And I feel, to me, this feels really good the way how it is. I
Yeah.
feel like there is just a balance in self-care and caring for others, caring for my clients, caring for my husband, caring for my family, friends, and for my pet.
Mm.
So I feel like it just feels right the way how it is. And I just don't feel, I know my limits. I know what creates stress in me. I know what creates tension in me. And I think, from what we also have been doing in her space, it's just like, it's all about also like now, learning to nourish yourself and setting boundaries and taking care of yourself. And I feel that if I were to have a child, I just feel that it would just take a lot from me. And I feel like it probably, and this might sound, probably, I feel like it probably wouldn't bring out the best in me. And maybe that's just me saying that because I don't know the other story, but I also know my limits. And I
Mm.
just feel like me having a sense of freedom, me having balance, me having, being an introvert, having time to myself, sleep is really important to me. Like,
Mm.
I all know the things that help me to function best in my life.
Yeah.
And I've created the life that I can function my best.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and the introvert, I was gonna talk, wanted to tap into that just briefly, because you are an introvert, right? And that what you just described now, that often shines through with other women who I spoke to are introverts as well. It's just the yeah, you, like, introverts don't thrive on constant interaction with other people like extroverts do, right? And I resonate with that. I'm kind of more on the middle, but I really resonate with that. I can see a pattern there when it comes to women who choose not to have children. That sometimes plays into it. Yeah. Yeah. And know thyself, right? I mean, it is, again, when the more you get to know yourself, the more you obviously make this choice of whether to have a child or not. You make it from a more awakened, as well as liberated place. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think for me, you know, I think I'm just really speaking here from a place of choice, like right now, making choices. And I also know that, yeah, I feel like I've also feel privileged to be able to make the choice, because I know probably if I would try, most likely, you never know, I probably could fall pregnant. But I also know I'm making a choice from a place that I know it's something I probably possibly could have, but I'm choosing not to. And I also, really just want to just let whoever is listening here, like, I know that being on the other side of being child free, and
Mm.
where it's just not possible for whatever reason,
Mm.
yeah, I just wanted to say like that, yeah, I can imagine that will be a really difficult situation to be in. And I think why I love you bringing this topic to us and your program, because it doesn't really matter which spectrum that you're at. I think what you're giving us is just coming to a place of acceptance and coming back to a place of self-care and love and nurture and reconnecting with your feminine. And I just feel like it's such an important topic, this
Mm.
child-free living, because
Mm.
we all have our different stories and experiences, but I really feel like what it comes back to, just coming to this inner place of acceptance, whatever journey might be there.
Yeah, and every journey is different. And yeah, absolutely. As we say, there's a huge difference between choosing or not having the choice. It's just not happening. And then, like you can't have a child. And then it may be also sometimes in the beginning definitely feels more childless rather than child-free, because you may feel a lack of something, that you dearly want. And from my own journey, I can resonate with that, having longed and, wanted to have a child for many years, but then also coming to embrace it, yeah. And so this is, it's interesting, in the program, women have asked me, can you actually bring both women together in one program? For the ones who it hasn't been happening and for the ones who don't want to. And I choose to bring them together because there, as you know, Nat, there is so much, we learn and get so much inspiration from each other. Like there's much more that we can actually get from the experience of being in the same space than not. Yeah, that is, that's just, we learn from each other as women coming together in the group and in the circle. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you also said you are, and your husband, you called it traveling souls. Like there's definitely something that you enjoy about the freedom as well, right?
Yeah.
Of that.
Yeah. And I think another thing is that I've asked myself the question, would it be different if I were in a relationship or married to somebody else? And that could possibly be that maybe if like I would have stayed in Australia, if I would have maybe even, met a different partner, it probably could well be that my situation would look different. Maybe I would have had 5 kids by now. I mean, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe not, maybe yes, but I also know that I think the relationship dynamics can also have a big input on your desire for children. And I think, for the, like when Matt and I would talk about it, like, do we want to have kids? We always said, well, not just yet, because we always felt like, well, where are we going to be next? And what do we want to create? And we just still felt like we were just building our lives, building our own self journey, getting to know ourselves more. And we both are quite free spirits. Like we even though we've got a home now, but we don't feel like a particular place is like home. So I feel like our relationship is quite free spirited as well in some ways, that has also probably made me realize that it's the relationship probably has also got something to do with my decision of not wanting to have kids.
Yeah, I think I'm really happy you speak to that, because I think this is an important piece. Because if you are in a relationship, I think there's people who are like, there needs to be a certain energy that fits. Either one of you really needs to want this, right? And then maybe the other one can, mold themselves around and get into it. And but if it's two for spirits together, or like there's something happening there also around the energetic that you live out as a couple, I think. Like, similar to you, maybe the relationship I was in before my husband at 30, with that man, maybe I would have children now, it could be very different. But the relationship that I'm in, or what we are to create together, my husband and I, this relationship has a different purpose, and that's interesting too. That's why, sometimes when people get into new relationship, conditions change, and maybe then they want a child, or they no longer want a child. Like it's yeah, there's a lot to that. Yeah. And then, I mean, obviously there's some women maybe listening here and you are thinking of, having a child by yourself. You're not in a relationship. Yeah. We're just talking relationship now because that's what we experience. Yeah? So yeah, this is
Yeah,
so much to this.
I remember when I lived in Australia, and I would have been in my mid um, late mid 20s, and there was this couple that they were child free, and I asked them, and they were all like, I would always see them holding hands together. They were in their late 50s, and they just like would always kiss, and just they were just such a beautiful couple. And I asked them, so what is your, like, after being so many years together, what is it that makes you happy? And they're like, well, we don't have kids.
Yeah.
And it's just that really stuck. I was like, yeah, because you really have this opportunity just to really focus and nurture your relationship, because there's nothing there that will create extra strain.
Yeah. And is this something, I think you would mention it, the reason that it comes up here is, I think that it did help you on your journey kind of to have that experience, right?
Yeah.
To have that
Yeah.
sort of mentor couple in
Yeah.
your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I grew up with two women and couples in my field who were child free, and one of them, they again, like you, it's such a beautiful relationship, and I loved to be around them. Like, yeah, so I have seen it modeled, yeah, and I think that sometimes can really help. Also, you feel, even though you mentioned before, maybe you do think something is wrong with you, but at the same time, you have witnessed other couples being on that life path and having an absolutely fulfilled and
Yeah.
purposeful life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I think
Mm.
yeah, I think having had this realization that, yeah, it would just create an extra, for me, I feel that it will create extra strain. And yeah, and I'm okay with keep on putting that energy into my relationship.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all the beautiful things that you really do in the world, as a healer, as a intimacy relationship coach, as a white witch, these are different expressions of the feminine that I see through you, and the creatress, of course. Like every woman has it has a unique flavor and brings it out in her unique way. These are just kind of archetypes, that can point to certain things. And yeah, motherhood is not the only one, although for many, like for thousands of years, that's really what has been preached to women and what women have been conditioned to. That's why we still, to this day, modern women who grew up in a country with a lot of freedom, like Switzerland, there's still something there that makes you question, well, am I allowed to? And that says something. Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's also a lot of articles, and I think even studies out there where women are asked, if you could have the choice again to have children, would you?
mm,
And most of them say, well, I love my child, I would not want to give my child away, but if I could choose again, it probably would be a no.
mhm.
I think that it does really go to show that, yeah, there is a lot of, I think we still live in a society, I feel like it's changing, where a lot of the times it's just something that we do. Like, maybe it happens when you're quite young, and it's just something that you do.
Yeah, it's quite unconsciously, like,
Yeah.
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 And I think that's why millenniums now are much more, these days we have so many more tools available around, getting to know ourselves and, healing our past trauma and things like that. Like imagine the generation of our mothers or grandmothers, there was not, like, that was not really there. So it was like, you just had children. That's what you did. And it's still the case in many cultures and in many places in the world. Obviously, let's not forget that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, hey, Nat. Wow, wonderful. We tapped into many different things. Anything else you would like to share with our audience today? Yeah, anything else that wants to come through?
Yeah, I think it doesn't really matter what journey we're on, whether we choose to be child free, whether it's situational, whether we're choosing to have children. I just think yeah, it's such an important topic, and I feel it's something that I'm so grateful you're bringing to us, because I feel like it is something important that we should all look more into like
Mm,
motherhood, mothering. What does that really mean? Mothering ourselves,
mm,
mothering others. And I think no matter what situation that we're in, it's just having the chance and opportunities to bring that more into our personal selves, into our lives. It's just so important.
mm.
And I'm just really happy and glad we're having these situations, because I feel like at the end of the day, like, motherhood is, again, it's just it's a topic that, we just only see one part of it, but really so many different things. And again, how can we bring more of that self-love, self-care, connecting with our womb, connecting with our feminine essence? How can we bring more of that into our life? Because I feel like that really brings us back to our vitality, and it just enriches our lives. And I'm just glad we're having these conversations. Like, I really am glad that we're in a time and era where we can speak freely about these things, where we're
Yeah,
probably not going to go get stoned or, burnt or whatever might have happened, or shunned, or where we have to, be excluded. So I'm just really glad that we live in an era where we're really able to dive deeper into these topics.
yeah, yeah, me too. I'm with you here. Ah, it's an exciting time to be alive for us. Lots of beautiful work to do, yeah,
Yeah,
in honor of the feminine.
yeah, absolutely,
All
absolutely.
right. Well, thank you so much, Nathalie, for opening up and sharing with us, being with us here. And for anyone who's been listening, and if you are looking for or longing for more fulfillment and meaning and magic in your life, as well as getting in touch with your unique feminine essence and expressing that more in the world, then please get in touch or check out my upcoming program, Creating Magic and Meaning Beyond Motherhood. We begin on February 12th, and you'll find the link in the show notes. And in the show notes, you will also find the link of how to find out more about Nathalie's wonderful work, and how to get in touch with her. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. And until next time, goodbye.
Thank you, Corinne. Thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye.